Welcome back to this new episode of Connect the Dots. I'm Aria, and today I thought, what are the winds of Gemini digging up and bringing to our awareness, to our consciousness? So I am sitting here. It's Tuesday afternoon in Toronto. It started off as a warmer day, and now it's suddenly windier and breezier, and that has been a really interesting and special quality of this spring season, and certainly this Gemini season in 2025. And so on Connect the Dots, this month of Gemini season, as we are moving through the signs of the zodiac, we are looking to see as the sun moves through each sign, as the planets transit, what is our consciousness learning? What is the medicine? What is the teaching? Where can our awareness lovingly drop into in alignment and in harmony with the cycles and rhythms of both our world as well as our larger cosmos? So the winds of Gemini today are bringing up the capacity to communicate, the capacity that all of us have. So if you've been coming along with me these last few weeks, we've been looking at thought forms, mental models, and everything that influences our perspective and our lens of the world. And we've been doing that because Gemini as an energy, as a mercurial sign, the archetype of it is associated with the quality of our mental body. So we have a physical body, an emotional body, a mental body, a relational body. We have like 10 bodies. In certain ancient traditions, a human has up to 14 bodies that they are conscious of, right? And these bodies interact with each other, are so interwoven. And we all have a mechanism of coming to a place of health and balance, right? So we are coming up to the full moon in Sagittarius. And Sagittarius, on the wheel of the zodiac, is the polar opposite of Gemini. So here in Gemini season, our consciousness is very interested in duality, in exploring the oppositional yet complementary forces, right? This is very beautifully illustrated by the yin yang symbol that is very common, right, from Asian cultures. And the duality here is, while things are opposite or opposing, they are complementary. And why is that needed? Because those principles animate creation. So with regards to our communication, that could mean speaking and hearing, right? It could mean listening and then expressing. It could mean everything that we're taking in from our environments, from our world, through our sense organs, and everything we're putting back out into the world. One informs the other informs, you get the idea, like inhales and exhales. In a way, I can identify an inhale as separate from an exhale, but it is the mechanism of both that keeps our bodies breathing. So I was at the Toronto Healthy Living Women's Show this past weekend. I was one of the speakers on stage, and I was at this exhibition in a large convention center. There were like 80 vendors. There were hundreds of people that came through over the 2 days of the event. So I was really conscious around this whole what's coming in and what's going out, right? If you've ever been to an exhibition center, you have these concrete floors, these high ceilings with fluorescent lights. There is, like a din of conversation. People are speaking, on stage. So it's loud. There's a lot of artificial lighting. And in addition to that, you have, conversations that you're hearing, everyone's emotions, energies, thoughts. There's excitement, there's tiredness. People have friends, people are solo. We pick up so much. And I was noticing that in my body. And as a result of everything, every single bit and byte of information, down to temperature, sound, the type of information that I was hearing what people were sharing, which could be emotional, it could be things I agree with or disagree with, taste, touch, it was very warm outside, but in the exhibit hall, it was fairly cool, even though we know we're in spring season. And so all of this then impacted my speaking and my level of engagement. And I was an exhibitor, right? So I felt like I had to maintain an air of openness as people came by. And when I was speaking on stage, I had a practice talk, certainly, but there was also, that dynamic between what people are sharing and how you ingest that and present it. So at an exhibition center, it's a, highly specific type of setting, but in our lives, you and I take in millions of bits and bytes of information through our sense organs every second, right? And our body and being, ourselves, communicate with each other. So everything that we take in from the outer world is the way we interface. But there's also how we feel in a moment. I had many of these moments at this exhibit hall, right? Like you're walking, there's people everywhere, and there's an attraction and a repulsion to certain booths, to certain people, to certain conversations. We all have our own little judgments, our own inner world that is interacting with everything that is made, everything that is happening outside of us. And so, when we absorb everything in, depending on our process of awareness, how we distill, metabolize, digest, synthesize, and then make sense of the information, that tends to be what we then put out into the world. And so certainly putting out into the world is the things we're saying, the things we're speaking, and it's nuanced. It could be the tone, the quality, the cadence of our voice, how, doubtful we feel or how confident we feel on a certain thing. It is also nonverbal, right? Our vibe, our facial expressions, our posture, what we are physically attracted to or what we physically want to pull away from. So all of this is in relationship. Everything that, however we express, which is a huge, piece of the Gemini archetype, the season that we're currently in. A huge piece of that is expression. And yet it greatly depends on what we have taken in and how it is processed. And that to me is a really good expression of this particular phase of the Gemini season we're in with the full moon in Sagittarius, which is tomorrow. Now, a lot of this, this element around communication and subtle body communication, it lives in the nerves, our nervous system, our central nervous system, but again, also, our nerve endings. That is what draws in a lot of what we perceive as information. And so think on it this way. Our physical digestion, how does that work? We eat something and then our digestion's intelligence processes it, removes the waste from the nutrition. It goes through a metabolic process. And then what is not considered food or nourishing is eliminated in a healthy body, in a healthy digestive system, right? We don't really need to think about, I ate this, but then should my body be absorbing this or not? As long as we're eating good, nourishing, healthy food, our body's intelligence does the rest. But what about for our mental body? What about for our perception and our communication? What is our digestion and metabolic process for the entirety of the world that we perceive, that we take in from the moment of birth, right? And again, our mentality and our emotionality are quite closely interlinked. And so how do we distill helpful information, good information, life-giving information from what is not that, right? How do we take the thought? How do we discern that these thoughts, these beliefs are propelling me towards my dreams and desires versus these ones that I am comfortable with, maybe I'm familiar with, but they're actually taking away? And this is where this dynamic gets really interesting. Because unlike our physical food digestion, our mental and emotive digestion process requires our consciousness. And when we have, over time, over weeks, months, years, when we start to develop that refinement, develop that attunement, our capacity to perceive the world with a reduced charge, emotive charge, mental charge associated with life, that tends to lessen. We can allow thoughts and life experiences, moments, opinions, things that are showing up in our life to actually have the quality of air, as if they are breeze, as if they're different types of breezes moving through us, rather than our current relationship with our mental body that is often overwhelmed, distracted, overloaded, right? It could be, has anyone ever told you, if you're having a conversation, especially with someone you love, that you seem quite disinterested, or they're talking to you and you keep looking away because, whatever is going on in your mind and your emotions? All of that contributes to our capacity to be emotionally present, not only with ourselves, but also with others. And so this work of distilling, discerning, metabolizing our thoughts and emotions, and figuring out, where do we spend a lot of our time? Do we spend it in fantasy, in expectations, in ideology? Do we spend it in the past? Are we in worry? And how can we support our mental and emotional metabolysis, like metabolic process, to actually have a better, more loving, more conscious, more refined relationship with our thoughts? So these weeks, one of the things I am doing quite regularly is going into a float tank. So if you have them in your city, your country, or area, they are amazing for some people. They are these sensory deprivation tanks. They have a high level of salt water in them. So you go in, it's extremely quiet, it's dark, and it sort of creates a womb-like space. Because of the high level of salt, your muscles tend to relax, and it is a great time to do breath work, to meditate if you meditate, to just let your mind and body be here and now in a safe, relaxed, contained environment for a specified amount of time, right? 40 minutes, 1 hour, 90 minutes. And that has been so nourishing for me to see what type of nonsense has been cycling and recycling in my consciousness. And that helps me, and it has helped me build a level of discernment with, oh, I'm having a lot of these thoughts. All right. And certainly I'm a huge proponent of taking time out of your day intentionally, devotionally, to sit in some form of meditation. And again, not everyone has to sit through meditation. It could be standing, it could be movement, right? One of the things in a windy spring season, like we're having here in Toronto, is simply the meditative process of leaving your phone or devices at home and going for a walk and being present with the weather of the day, the wind, the temperature. And that, again, helps me drop out of my over cerebral mind processing and just to rest in this moment to see what thoughts do I actually need to action. Because there's no way we can physically action every thought, and we probably shouldn't. And yet, the difficulty I have is amidst all of the weird, rubbishy thoughts that kind of cycle forth, somewhere in there are sprinkled some diamond thoughts, like something really cool that I actually do want to do, but I haven't quite landed on it. It's like it's underneath the surface. And so tending to our mental body will also tend to our emotional body. And that is a massive invitation, especially this week, heightened by the full moon in Sagittarius. Because I don't know about you, but a lot of people in my world, myself included, we are feeling very windy in the mind, right? And that can be exciting and energizing. And after a moment, it can be really exhausting. Because what do I do with all of these thoughts? What do I do with all these ideas? Ideas are beautiful, but the joy in them comes when an idea is like a seed and you plant it and you align your energy, your focus into actually, cultivating it into a larger plant or tree. And so that is the energy of this week as I am understanding it, as I am interpreting it. Whatever helps you clear the cache, on your, I work in tech, so I often have a lot of tech analogies. Just like your browser can get really janky when it has, you've been looking at 1,000 different things, you've never cleared it. The same thing happens with our mind. And just like our physical bodies, all of us as adults who want to have a life of peace, a life of harmony, I think I'd say that's the invitation. Like whatever helps you clear the cache of your mind, of your mental browser that allows you to relax out of your mental model that you've created and into the present breath, reality, and awareness that your body and being is actually experiencing. That is the invitation of this week. So apologies for this longer video. I wanted to give a huge shout out to Catherine, hi, and Gordon. Thank you for joining live today. And if you have any questions or comments, please post it in the video. From myself, Arya, thank you for joining Connect the Dots. And I will be back later this week with the last of the Gemini season archetype that we are exploring. Have a beautiful day.